Welcome back to Omni Football. Today we are coming at you from a little bit different location, a little bit different schedule. I am at my dad's apartment, my mom and dad's apartment, and Omni Football is taking a trip to Brea, California. We, as you see, have a very special guest returning for his second time on the show. We have none other than Luis Martinez, my father. Here to come back to the show. He had such a fun time last time, so welcome back.
Thank you for having me back. I appreciate it,
Mr. Strong Guy.
It's always a good conversation when we talk about the beautiful game and talk about the things that are going on around the world.
Sorry about that. There's the washing machine, just unprofessional, but we don't get paid, so it's fine. We've got a lot to talk about. A lot of things going on right now. Last week, Ryan and I on the podcast talked about the Euro 2020, which was rescheduled to this year, 2021. It's kicked off, and we've watched pretty much now almost 2 whole rounds of games. And it's been good. You've been watching it too, right?
Yeah, I've got a few games. Most of them I think have been pretty entertaining. Some of them have been a little bit frustrating, like watching the Spain game against, I don't remember who they played against, but it was pretty frustrating because of things that happen in games. I mean, this is nothing new when, a team feels like they're a complete underdog and they feel like they're going to be overmatched completely. So they go into a strategy which I guess Mourinho used to describe as parking the bus, I guess, right?
Right.
And it's not entertaining at all. And for me, it's not so much about winning a game anymore. I just want to be entertained more than anything else. So that was kind of a game that was frustrating, but there's been some good games. There's been some entertaining games. I don't recall exactly which ones. I know I watched a little bit of the Italy game against Turkey. I also watched Portugal against Hungary. And I thought that was a pretty entertaining game. And I thought that Hungary got kind of unlucky because they lasted until the 83rd, 84th minute or something like that. And then it's just like 3-0, which is not really fair, I think. But that's just the way the game goes sometimes.
That's actually true. I feel like I remember that game. And there was a couple of games like that where it was relatively close throughout the game, but as people get tired at the end of the game, more mistakes tend to happen, and the differences kind of you see those differences at the very margin at the end of the game. That sometimes a team like can play well. Like for me, I think it's like Denmark. I think has been playing well, but they've lost both games, like sometimes that's just like sport in general, isn't it? Like you play well sometimes and you lose, and sometimes you don't deserve to win and you win, and it's I guess in a tournament like the Euros, you're likely to see those kinds of injustices,
Yeah, in any tournament, it happens like that. And in the case of, there's a couple of things about the Hungary game. One of them was that I think the team got really unlucky because it wasn't so much they got tired, because the first goal came from a couple of, misdirections, or where the ball hits the player and it gets redirected in a certain direction. So somebody centered the ball in the first set of the play, and it hits a guy on the side and it goes this way, and then the player from Portugal hits it towards the goal, and it hits another guy, a defender, in the right foot or left foot, and it deflecting is what I was thinking. And it deflects and goes, slowly into the corner, and the keeper is frozen. He can't do anything.
Right.
And so that wasn't so much about the team being tired as much as just
being unlucky.
And, and then, I think there was a penalty kick, which it's kind of debatable. And then the last goal scored by Ronaldo from the run of play was, I think, could have been called offside. Maybe it wasn't. I think on replay by the VAR it wasn't. So, but all of that just happened in the last 7-8 minutes, something like that. And so that was a heartbreaker for Hungary. And then the second thing of the Hungary game, they're playing in their own stadium, I think.
I think they were.
And what was interesting about that is that it was a full stadium. The very first full stadium I've seen in any soccer game anywhere. And it was good to see. So because it is amazing how people is what really give the games their realism, I guess, how real they are and how emotional they are and how intense they are, and the quality of play, I think, is affected by having a full stadium was very interesting. But the other thing that was interesting about it is that looking around when they were panning through the people, I don't remember seeing anyone wearing a mask. So
yeah, actually, and that's a good point, because I feel like when Ryan and I were doing the breakdown before the Euros got started, I thought that they were only going to be holding this tournament in
I
Rome,
remember you guys saying that,
and Baku,
yeah.
But once the Euros got started, I realized that there were like at least 10 different stadiums throughout Europe that they were holding the games at.
Yeah.
Which kind of is, I thought, was odd, because the fact is that the pandemic is still going. Whether or not it's like at the same levels is one thing, but the pandemic is still going, and so it struck me as odd that like this tournament, which has like 20 teams or whatever, is like moving from like country to country with like different stands and different fans and different teams. It seems like kind of like, shouldn't it be, I think in my opinion, shouldn't it be more centralized maybe in one place, or do you think it's like safer because the teams are actually in different places? Do you think that they thought about that, or?
Well, I think this was planned way before the pandemic. So it wasn't like, oh, well, there's a pandemic and now we're going to make this new arrangements. I think it was supposed to, I think my understanding is that it was supposed to be like this right from the beginning. Pre-pandemic. And then the pandemic happened, and I think they left it that way. But now that you're bringing up this idea, I think it's actually probably safer to do it this way. I think maybe it's just working out this way. Maybe it wasn't intended to be this way right from the beginning, and maybe they did it this way because of the pandemic. And I think it makes sense now that you mention it. The reason why is because if you have it in like one or two centralized locations, then all the fans, if they allow them, would want to come to wherever, one place. Right. And so you have a lot more risk, I guess, and a lot more opportunities and exposure, I guess, for what's going on, which is here, I think, is more, even though there's some traveling, I think, still happening. It's not a massive, amount of people going into one location.
And that actually, if you think about it, it actually is, whether or not they intended it to be this way, it is technically, maybe if you think about it critically, it might be safer, because let's say in Turkey, for example, or Azerbaijan, like if the fans who attend the game, let's say there's a good majority or a good significant chunk of them that get sick, it's different. It's not going to affect like the fans, let's say, who are in Portugal, you know what I mean, or who are in Rome, for example, because there's probably more restrictions on travel for fans between the countries, rather than if everyone was in one central location, then it's obviously more dangerous.
Yeah. But I thought it was interesting in Hungary that it's like, okay, well, it's great to see a full stadium completely packed and they're all happy and they're all, getting behind their team and being emotional and everything. But I thought, man, I don't see, and I looked on purpose and it's like, I don't see, and I don't remember seeing a single mask anywhere. And it's like,
I have seen fans with masks, though.
Yeah, probably, but I don't know how Hungary is handling the pandemic, and I hope they're doing great with their not having a lot of numbers that are bad, and with their vaccination, I hope it's good. I mean, so I don't know. I mean, you would think that the government is aware of their numbers, hopefully, and that it allowed this a full stadium because they have a good handle on what's going on with the pandemic, right? So
I mean, so far it's been maybe a full week now, maybe into the tournament, and I don't think, other than maybe one player, I don't think that there has been like a big event of COVID outbreak within the fans. Well, I haven't heard of the fans, but definitely within the players. So as far as I can tell, I mean, so far so good. I mean, that may be famous last words as we continue into the tournament. Tournament's been really interesting. It's been really good. There's teams that I thought were going to be better, like Germany. I thought they were gonna play better. They played against France, who aren't that good, but I think they deserved to win that game against Germany. They do have, I think, more dangerous attackers, which is, I think, probably more good.
I'm not convinced by France. I mean, everyone, on like ESPN and to the end, whatever TUDN, whatever the name of the Spanish channel is, and all the other pundits or whatever they're called, they all keep picking France, and I'm not. It's like maybe they will win everything, but for me, it's not what I like to see, I guess. Let's put it that way. It's not what I follow the game for. It's not what I watch the game for. For me, I want to watch the game because it's a beautiful game, and when it's played right and when it's played honestly, it can be a super entertaining type of sport. Whereas if you play the game and many teams play like that, if you play the game to win or not to lose, you kind of set up a different strategy. And I think that's what's happening with France, which is, I actually thought that the Germany actually played pretty well, but
they don't have very good France, attackers, though.
Yeah, but it's almost impossible to penetrate or attack a team that kind of sits back with 7, 8, 9 players and this kind of in a block is just defending, and then counterattacking. I mean, it's just not fun to watch, and I'm used to watching that because I watch Manchester City, right? And Manchester City is typically ball possession, and then they try to penetrate teams, and teams just basically sit back against Manchester City because they know that that's just the way the game is gonna be, and then they counterattack. And France to me is like Mbappe, for example, is incredible. Once he kind of
gets going,
and and if he has room, because there's a couple of plays there in the game where he just kind of he passed the ball to himself forward, and then he just went after it, and it's just like, he took off and and he caught up to his own pass. So the guy's incredible, and but to me, it's like the style of play they play is just defending, and I know I read that they said it's like a tactical masterpiece. It's like baloney. To me that's doing a disservice to the game, I guess. So.
I mean, yeah, I think I can see your point. I think that I don't necessarily think though that it's the players who are necessarily doing this on their own.
Not.
I think a lot of it has to do with the style that the manager wants, right? And I think that on the flip side of things, like if a manager has a team like Germany who have a lot of technically good players, I think that if they come up against a team that is sitting deep, defending only, parking the bus, it's not really the players who like have to like figure it out on the field. I think it has to be the manager, the management of the coach to be like, okay, this is what we're up against. I need to sub in a player. We need to change up we need to put some more people in the right places and try to unlock the goal like that. But I mean, you're right. It's harder to watch sometimes. Really good players like France kind of just sit back and absorb.
When you look at, what was the score? 1-0.
And it was an own goal.
That came from an own goal.
But I mean, it was a good play on that own goal.
It was a good play, yes, but it wasn't. The goals, a couple of the goals they score were disallowed. Those were probably better goals and better plays maybe than from the actual goal that stood.
It's interesting. I saw a tactical analysis of the game afterward, and the expected goals for Germany was actually higher than the expected goals for France.
It's because that's what France has been doing since the World Cup. If you go back and remember how they played against, let's say, was it Ukraine? Or Croatia, right? They beat Croatia in the final, right? And then against Belgium. And I think in some of those games, they were like, again, tactical masterpieces or whatever, which is basically saying these people like to defend a lot and then they don't expose themselves and they'll just kind of counterattack and then they'll go back into a shell and defend. It's kind of like, being a boxer, I guess, or being in a boxing match and just kind of going, if you're one of the fighters, you're going to go into your corner and just go like this, until the other guy gets tired and then you punch him and then you go into like that. Maybe it's kind of like Charlie Chaplin and,
in Big City Lights. But I also think though, I think the phenomenon though is kind of like how people view Lewis Hamilton in Formula One racing, where it's like someone's just so dominant and wins so often and never really messes up that it like kind of becomes a little tiresome to see like the same style or the same person, the same teams winning over and over and over again. And maybe you think like, oh, they don't really deserve it. But at the end of the day, I feel like even though we can criticize like the style that they play, they still get the results, and like that's what it's about for them.
Not for
them,
for people
for the French. People, they love it.
Yeah, of course.
Because they keep winning.
Yeah, but see, that's the difference, and this is something that I read a while ago about the Netherlands. The Netherlands has never won. I don't think the Netherlands has ever won anything. I know they've never won the World Cup. I know that for a fact. I know they've been to like 3 or 4 World Cup finals, and they've lost all of them. I know they lost against Argentina in 1978, which I thought they should have won. Or Argentina shouldn't have been there, but whatever. That's a different story.
Was that the hand of God?
No. and then they lost against Spain not too long ago.
Yeah.
And I think there was another. I think they lost against Germany also, one or two of the finals. So my point is that the Netherlands have been there, but the issue with the Netherlands has been that they've always wanted to play pretty,
Right.
play
The beautiful game.
good style, pleasing
Total
to the
football,
eye,
right?
total football, that kind of thing. And I think that they have been kind of faithful to their idea of playing the game the right way and playing the game so that it pleases whomever sees it, but it hasn't gotten in the results.
Right.
And whereas other teams like France don't care maybe so much about, oh, we're not here to please everyone. We're
Right.
not here to be, an example of how the game should be played. We're here because we want to lift the trophy. And to me, that's just, I don't like it. I don't like it
But-
at any level
but I mean,
because
I also
even Manchester
think-
City does the same thing. And I follow Manchester City, you know that. And I don't like it. I don't like,
But I think but those are two extremes, right? One who won't compromise their philosophy to win and never does, and then one who doesn't care about the philosophy and wins. But I also think like in the Euros, I think that one of the better teams that I've seen is Italy. And Italy's played really well. I think that they have a lot of interesting like attackers and defenders, a good mix of both like young and new. And in like the past, when Italy's won the World Cup, for example, they've won it because they were like super defensive. Like they had like the best defenders and like really good goalkeepers, and like you just couldn't score on them. But like they've been playing well now, doing the exact opposite. Like they defend well, fine, but like they have like attackers. They have like Immobile, and then they have Insigne, and then they have some new guys like Locatelli, who I've never even seen, but like is really good. And they're attacking really well. So I feel like at some point you also have to like kind of like like with the people you get in your squads, I think you kind of also have to like change like what you do, right? And find the best out of them. I mean, for me, maybe in the Netherlands, like because they never compromise the philosophy, will never win, maybe. But I think that like Italy looks good. I mean, if I would actually really, really like to see like Italy play France, because I feel like the way that Italy's attacking and France, even though they have a good squad, I feel like Italy could beat them. I mean, anyone could beat anyone, I think, on the right day. But definitely, like I think that being able to flex even over time, even if you do it slowly, right? I think is still, better because you get the best out of who you have in your roster, right? I mean, rather than trying to like hammer home, the total football or like Barcelona, the tiki taka, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah. I mean, for me, is watching. I want to watch anyone. I don't care who it is. I mean, even the worst team in the world play an honest game, and I think this is the reason why I like the Women's World Cup to a certain degree a lot more than the Men's World Cup and the Euros. I don't know if there's Euros for the girls, for the ladies, but I love watching the Women's World Cup because although the US is dominant, and I think to a certain degree they kind of play to win that kind of thing as well, I think there's a little bit more or a lot more honesty, I think, in the game where they go out. They go out to play the game and to give their heart to play a good game and to try to win, that kind of thing with honesty, I guess. Whereas the men's game is more sophisticated, where it allows them to do those kinds of things, those strategies, whereas I go, okay, we're not going to be the Netherlands because they play beautiful, but they never win anything. So we're just going to be whatever, a mix of whatever, so that we can win trophies. And, I prefer more an honest game if you're not that good, lose. Why do you have to win and go into a shell? Because that's what you do.
See,
and that's the
I
only
think-
thing that you know how to do.
I think I disagree. I mean, I think that I agree with the fact that the women's, I think, go out and they pick a formation and they just go play hard. You know what I mean? They go play hard. They go play fair. They go to play like as a team, and then it's kind of like very straightforward. They're not necessarily thinking about the nuances, the tactics, where to be all the time, and like what did the managers tell us to do. But I also think that's part of the game. I mean, part of any game, whether it's chess or checkers or Formula One or soccer. Like, if there's something on the line, I feel like it brings out those things, because not everyone has like look at like one of the, I think is it Insigne in Italy, the Italian team. He's like a really short guy, like. He's not going to be able to do the same things that, like, let's say, Wijnaldum or like even like Mbappe can do. Like, they got to play to their strengths, go with your strengths, as they say, And sometimes that means like playing not to lose, or playing a different way.
I find it boring. I rather see a team be honest.
But not all the games have been boring, though. Come on, I mean, not all. The Euros have had some good games.
I'm
Some
not
really
saying,
good games.
I'm not saying all the games have been boring. There's been some really exciting games. I thought Turkey against Italy was a pretty good game. It wasn't. I would think it was 3-0, but it was kind of it was kind of can maybe give and go to a certain degree within the strengths or the capacities of the Turkish team. I was expecting more from Turkey, but there's been some interesting games, some exciting games, some enjoyable games. For me, the Germany-France game was more frustrating than anything else. So
I can see that.
And these are two of the top teams, and this was the game of the group stage, and it's like,
but I actually appreciate that it came at the end of the group stage, because it's like each day was like Group A, Group B, Group C, and then the Germany-France was like the last game of all of them.
Yeah.
And honestly, like, it wasn't the best of all the games, but it was nice to see that at the end, because we had already seen a bunch of good ones. You know what I mean? Yeah. So like the expectations were like up, but like we had already experienced some good ones already, so it wasn't that disappointing for me. But I mean, I do like both of those teams, and I'd rather see them play someone else, right? Maybe France feels more confident against, Hungary. I'd hope. Yeah. Maybe Germany takes it to Portugal a little bit better,
I don't. My thing is, I don't know who will win it. I just hope it's not France.
Yeah.
Just because they're there to, if they have, because everybody says, oh, they're loaded. Oh my gosh, look at their subs. They could field two teams. Okay, if you can field two teams, play the game and go out and attack and go out and beat the other teams 1-0 if that's what the score line is at the end, because maybe the other team goes into a shell and you attack and you can't penetrate. That's fine. But at least you're playing honestly. You're not just kind of, sitting back.
Yeah,
and,
but I mean, it was Germany. It was Germany. It's not like some team, it's not like some team that you can't just respect. I mean, like,
I understand it, but they did the same thing against Croatia. Or I think it was Croatia in the World Cup. They did the same thing against Belgium.
Well, they definitely did the same thing against Belgium.
And so it's like, come on! If you can field two good teams, show it. Don't just go into
Let's get off of France's back. The reigning champs of the world, the Mundial.
They suck.
All right, so of the teams you've seen, who would you like to see win? Who do you think would be a fun story?
I actually would like to see Belgium win something.
This Euros. You'd
This
like
year
to see
is
it?
just because they're rated number one, although it seems that they're not as good without De Bruyne there. I guess they're
that's
just.
true.
I read or I was hearing today that they were pretty pedestrian without him, and so. If he's gonna be there all the games and he's gonna take them all the way to the end and win it all, well, so be it, right? I typically root for the underdog, for the little guys. So whenever Belgium is playing against, I don't know, the Faroe Islands, I know they're not in it, but I'm probably gonna root for the Faroe Islands, even though I have no idea where the Faroe Islands are. Do you know where the Faroe Islands are?
I think they're in North America, aren't they?
No, in North America.
South America?
No, they're in Europe.
All right, fine. I don't know.
Yeah. Anyway,
you're asking me, and I'm giving you a good guess.
They,
Right?
they wouldn't be in the Euros if they were in South America. But anyway,
They're not even in the Euros.
yeah, your geography.
They're not even in the Euros.
Okay. Well, because they didn't qualify, I think they had to
Whatever.
qualify. Anyway,
Whatever.
I like to see Belgium win it because I like to see someone new win it.
Yeah, I mean, I think with the team they have, I think now or never. I think honestly, I don't think maybe they have more Belgian players coming up, but I mean, they have the team. They have a team that could win it for sure.
Yeah. Well, we won't get to see what these teams, what they're made of until the knockout rounds, right? I mean, once they eliminate the.
But I mean, also we'll see more in the group stage. This is only the first. This has only been like the first week of the group stage, and like today was like the first day of the second week.
There's still some interesting games in the group of death.
Yeah.
Portugal against France. See which one of the two decides to stay in their own half the whole game, and go, okay, here, come attack me. I'm just gonna go like this.
Yeah. But I don't know. We'll see. Since no one's asked me my pick for the Euro, I'd like to see Italy win. I think it'd be cool. Plus, they have a nice jersey. So I don't know. I mean, I know
the
that doesn't
jerseys are always very.
I know
classy,
that doesn't make a
classy.
difference, but yeah, I think Italy's cool. I think that Italy could use a win. So yeah.
A little bit about Christian Eriksen.
Oh yeah, let's talk about him before we wrap up.
Yeah, that has been. I guess unfortunately the highlight of the whole tournament so far.
Or at least one of the major headlines, yeah.
And it's maybe not the highlight, but one of the most impactful events, I guess. So,
yeah. So for those who don't know, in a game last week, a couple days ago, between I think it was Finland and Denmark, they were both playing, and one of the Danish players, his name's Christian Eriksen. He's pretty well known for the people who watch the English Premier League. The English league. He's a Danish player and he plays for one of the teams in England, but he was playing, and during the match, around 45 minutes in, he basically fell on the field mid-play and was unresponsive physically. And so the game was stopped. The medical staff was called onto the field, and sometimes there's injuries on the game during the games. But this was not an injury. This was just like off the ball. This man was just running and then just stopped and fell.
He collapsed.
Collapsed, right? And it in real time, it was apparent that he was having some kind of really bad health problem. And afterward, it was found out that he was having a heart attack. So Christian Eriksen had a heart attack on the field during the middle of a game, while the game was going, basically. And it's really rare to see an athlete, have those kinds of health issues in general, but definitely it's even more rare to see it happen during a game, and it was a pretty horrifying sight. I wasn't watching the game live that day.
I was watching it, and I was crying. I mean, literally, I was crying because I've never seen anything like that on live television, and it was pretty impactful. And from the second he hit the ground, because I could see they were focusing on him, because he collapsed basically face forward, and he landed on his side, and his eyes were like completely locked open and not responding. And he was in trouble right from as soon as he hit the ground. And his doctor said that he was gone. So he was dead, which I that's what I thought, that he was dead. And his doctor said it. He was dead. He was gone. And luckily they were able to revive him quickly enough where he didn't sustain any brain damage.
Right. They used a defibrillator on him on the field.
Yeah, but it was something that I'm sure that will mark this Euros, and not too many people will forget. I know I won't forget, because I've seen this before where I've seen 2 other soccer players collapse on the field and died, but it was like on the news after it happened, maybe days or weeks or years after. But this was like while it was happening, and then it happened like in front of you, and it's very, very dramatic and impactful. But and today they said that they're implanting let's call it an ID something.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they're gonna put a device in him that will revive his heart if it stops again. So that's how severe his condition is. And then the other thing they said is that who he played today. I can't remember what his name. I think is David Blind.
Daley
Blind. He plays for the Netherlands.
Yeah.
They're saying that he has one of these devices also in him.
Oh, no way.
And that he plays with one of them, which is like, I didn't know that. So, but he has a different condition than Christian. So, but I don't know if Christian's ever going to play again. But
no, I actually heard, I think the medical advice that he was given was that he should never play professional soccer again, due to the fact that this is a health condition that's only pretty much probably exacerbated by high levels of physical exercise, right? And so I think we kind of maybe take it for granted how difficult it is to run for 90 minutes, even with a 15-minute break in between. I mean, and it's you kind of expect it from professional players, because that's literally all they do. They don't have work, they don't have school, they don't have responsibilities. All they do is exercise and then practice and then go play. But yeah, it's a high demand physical activity, and even the best in the world, Christian Eriksen is definitely considered as top level athlete, a top level talent. And he's not like older than anyone, and he's probably right in the middle of the median ages. So it was a very surprising, a very traumatic experience for him, for his team, for the Danish nation, for the Euros, for the whole populace who was watching. Right? You just never want to see. I mean, you don't want to see people get hurt, and you definitely don't want to see people have those kinds of things happen to them on live TV either.
Yeah, I think for anyone that follows football around the world, and they especially those that have been following the Euros, and like a lot of soccer tournaments, it's not only the Europeans that follow the Euros. There's people in South America and Asia and
right.
The U.S. everywhere that follow the Euros, and so anyone that follows football and the Euros, something like this is very traumatic, and it isn't something that you that you want to see, and it isn't something you forget, So
luckily, Christian Eriksen's recovered. He is stabilized. They defibrillated him on the field and were able to take him to hospital where he recovered and didn't die. He's still alive and well. But yeah, it just kind of puts you into kind of a reflection kind of mood after witnessing that. 2020 was already a year of reflection in many ways, and something like this to happen on the first major tournament basically after the pandemic, it kind of just puts into perspective, like that life is worth living, but also life is fleeting and life is fragile, and even the best of us can be, can have life-threatening things come at us out of nowhere. And, we just got to take care of ourselves, live the best we can, and, appreciate the time we've got, definitely.
So let's hope that the rest of the Euros are very memorable, but not for that kind of stuff,
Yeah,
they're memorable for the quality of play and the subsequent games. But hopefully, we don't have, for their own safety, don't have any of these types of situations for the players, so.
And with that, on that note, on that kind of somber but also positive note, we wish the best to Christian Eriksen. Omni Football Podcast wishes the best to the Danes and Christian Eriksen, and that's gonna do it for us. We thank you for watching. Probably next one is probably gonna be from the normal Omni Football studio, but yeah, thanks for joining me.
Keep following the beautiful game, and thank you to all the players who played the game beautifully, and thank you for keeping us entertained, because it is a beautiful game and it is very entertaining. So
indeed. All right, bye guys.